Well, good morning from Silicon Valley. This is Marco Marinucci with Mind the Chat. And today we have a great pleasure to host an exciting panel with Bain. So let me call our speakers one by one. We have from San Francisco, Rishi Roongta, expert partner, founder at Bain Innovation Exchange. How you doing, Rishi? You're mute.
That would work. Hey, guys.
Yeah. And then from Milan, Marco Di Luca, General Manager at the Bain Incubator.
Hey, Marco. Thanks for having us.
A
Doing
pleasure.
Very well.
Last but not least, from Paris, if I'm correct, Laure Ceddaha, co-founder at Aura.ceo and also the director at the EIR program at Bain. How you doing, Laure?
Doing good, thanks. Hey, Marco. Hi, everyone.
Excellent. That's a pleasure of working online, that we have people in actually four different spots around the world. So in the next 45 minutes, we are very excited to address, in fact, three different areas of activities of corporate innovation and entrepreneurship. And so we will try to address one by one. I mean, before I get started, again, Bain, top management company, known by everybody, I think, that is watching here. But maybe to help us, Rishi, navigate which part of the companies you guys represent. In particular, again, innovation is kind of a common theme and goes horizontal. Maybe if you can just mention, some numbers about Bain, and in particular within Bain, who works specifically on areas of innovation.
Yeah, sure. Well, maybe I'll start with why we even have these groups, right, at Bain, which are generally newer in the last few years. So one, we Bain recognize that our clients are coming to us to talk about innovation. Second, we're finding that, if you look at that chart that everyone's seen on the S&P 500, how long will companies last? All the predictions are less and less. And we're seeing that every single day, right? Companies are being disrupted. And they're being disrupted by startups, companies coming out of the woodwork that we all don't know about. And so with that, I think innovation has become a pretty important topic. It's become really important to strategy of our clients. And how you innovate has become a prominent theme that I think this group and others at Bain continue to see. And so with this theme, we launched a few functions at Bain. You've got sort of two represented here. One being the Bain Innovation Exchange, which is a group that I lead. We founded this about 3.5 years ago, really on the premise that we could do two things. One is to drive innovation capabilities and innovation with our clients. So how do you truly execute good innovation? And what are the different functions of innovation that you want to leverage, whether it's venture capital or incubation, et cetera? Second is we have built a network of access to startups and venture funds for our clients. So we can accelerate their capabilities internally by getting them in front of the right companies at the right time. And so that's the BIE world. We have a team that's global. We've got folks in China, Australia, India, Europe, and a number of folks in San Francisco. And then we have some other groups also that are focused on innovation as well. And maybe it'd be good to hear from Marco with Baincubator, an initiative that, just like our clients, we recognize that we need to innovate ourselves, right? We are a premier services firm, and we've done great work with our clients, but can we bring technology to play? Can we bring new stuff to the market? Because we understand the needs of our clients. And Marco has been helping lead that initiative around how do we build stuff new to the world?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nothing new. I mean, the world is SaaSifying. Basically, SaaS is everywhere. Like 5G is going to make this even bigger. And, the thing is, we realized we never played a real role in this. SaaS is growing 2-3x compared to professional services. And Bain never really played a role in this space. So the new CEO, Laure, like when he got into the role, in the strategic plan, basically one of the key thing was like, okay, how can we tackle this? And so we are literally building stuff. So in a nutshell, it's a corporate incubator. And corporate incubator, it is nothing new. Like they've probably been around in the last 50 years. The point, it is all about what you do and how you do it, right? And we are trying to develop our own model, knowing what we know from what we have done with our clients in the last 10 years. So it's a great journey. We're doing very well, but I don't want to spoil you too much.
Yeah, don't spill all the beans right out off the bat. So what we're looking forward to going into the different two different models, but still remaining at the high level of the macro objectives. I think this is also reinforcing one of the multiple research that we've been working on. That is literally how the topic of measuring of impact of innovation within corporates is escalating, the priority level, and now is definitely at a top management level, and hence, the role of companies like yourself, whose role is really to help guide some of the strategy at the highest level. This is also reinforcing, again, one of the data point that we have that we're gathering, that is also how that translates into real actions of a corporate strategy. And one of the multiple actions is also to be closer to the hubs of innovation, and hence the accelerated movement of a bunch of corporates with 1, 2, 10, and 50 people in Silicon Valley or Israel or other hotbed of innovations that we are tracking, again, in the same framework report that we'll be launching in a few days. One only point, and then we want to dive into the Innovation Exchange. Bain also has a pretty well-known capital side, Bain Capital, that also has a capital ventures. Help us place that entity within the Bain umbrella, Rishi.
So it's super simple. Bain Capital is a completely separate organization. We actually are not related anymore. We might share birth name, but we actually are not related. They are their own private equity and venture firm. Bain Consulting is a separate organization. So,
perfect. That was easy.
Pretty simple. Yeah,
very much. All right, so let's dive into you mentioned just the highlights, but the Innovation Exchange as a structure. And so if you can help us guide us through, I know that you have different pillars in the support, in areas of support of your clients. So maybe help us quantify. You mentioned that you're very international, but how many people actually within the company are working in that function, and then the structure of the different pillars that today you use to support your clients.
Sure. So you have to remember, Bain itself is a 12,000 person firm, right? So I think it's 12,000, right, Marco? About. So we have 55 offices globally, and so while I would say, are a smaller group, we leverage the entirety of Bain, which gives us, in terms of like advantages or secret assets. I'd say that's our asset. Our team specifically in the BI is probably closer to around 20 globally. Focused on ecosystem and innovation. Then we've got a plethora of what I call innovation experts that are focused on corporate innovation, helping clients launch new businesses. We've got a number of those folks.
And Rishi, since we're there, and I think human capital is key, what is the typical background of the folks that work as innovation expert?
So
on your side?
So we have So we have a mix, right? We have folks that are previously venture capitalists. We have folks that were previously corporate venture capitalists. We have folks that were previously product managers at startups. We have folks that were previously chief innovation officers, right, and heads of innovation. And then we have folks that have launched, they're entrepreneurs. They've built stuff, they've launched things. And so we think diversity in talent is super important to help our clients get to the right answer. And that's why we bring folks from all over. But yeah, that's probably the kind of quick snapshot.
So you were diving into the different structure and the pillars, and maybe would help us understand how you measure then the outcome of some of these activities. One in particular that I know, again, you can land into your website is pretty self-explanatory of the Innovation Exchange. One that I think we're particularly intrigued because we've seen and talked to clients, but also gathering data on the really macro trends is the CVC as a service. If you can help us, describe how that works. Is that something that happen, just on a temporary basis to kick off the planning and the beginning steps, or is something that happens on a regular basis? So help us.
Yeah. So let me maybe break down BIE a little bit first, and then I'll dive into CVC. So I would say BIE really has 3 type of functions. One is, there's an innovation function. So we help clients think about, their innovation strategy, ambition, mandate, figure out what operating model they should leverage, what functions they should deploy. So if it's CVC, or it's an accelerator, or it's an ecosystem type platform, we help them figure that out. That's a little bit more strategic, right? Then there are modes of innovation. So we can help you with corporate venture capital, as you mentioned, right? Where we have clients come to us and say, hey, we see everyone has a CVC. We know traditionally it's been quite difficult to get, let's say a financial return. Generally speaking, CVCs are first to sort of be let go in corporations after a number of years. What we found is that what we help with is how do you set up a right corporate venture capital fund so that's aligned to strategy, and there's also just alignment, to be honest, with the organization. When these things get set up in silo, that's when things start to falter. But when there's true alignment in terms of exactly the ambition, where we're focused, what are the spaces to go after, what are the stages that we're going to invest in, are we strategic or financial or mix, what are the incentives for the folks on the team, how does this connect into the core business, right? One of the things we find is you have to have a CVC group, but then you need to also have a group that's almost like like they break the walls in the organization. Because the beauty of a CVC group, and as a former VC, is you are learning so much by meeting startups and entrepreneurs. So you might only invest in let's say 2% of everything you see, okay? But the 98% that you see, what do you do with it, right? Including the 2%, but what else do you do with all those learnings? And we find it's super important to also set up an organization that is taking those learnings as sort of in between the BUs of a business and a corporate venture capital. So we help scope this all out, right? And it's super important to do, and you have to spend time on it. And I would say that's the strategic op model piece of it. And then we have the ability to give you the training wheels. So, for one of my clients, another colleague and I, we helped them set it up. We accelerated the forming of their fund. We got them in front of potential candidates that they could hire. We got them in front of lawyers. We got them in front of other VCs that would likely be in their peer set in the spaces that they cared about. And then we actually started to scout opportunities. Now, we're not a registered investor, so we can find opportunities and scan for them, but really it's up to the CVC to make the investment decision. But we can actually provide a lot of diligence and scanning support. And so we've done that with a few clients of ours as well.
When was the Innovation Exchange started? Also to get a time reference. How many years ago?
2017.
Okay, so it's relatively new.
Can't remember if it was January or February, but it was around that.
I was trying to get to the sense that during that time, if you've seen within the conversation with your clients, kind of the macro objective change or evolve over time, or is still pretty much in a similar expectations as you had at the first engagement?
I think it's still similar, but more urgent. So as you see what's happening in the startup world, right? $250 billion of funding going into the startups. you have to find, we believe it is critical to figure out how to work with this ecosystem, whether it's through a venture capital arm or whether it's through just an ecosystem platform, whatever that might be. You have to understand what's going on outside your four walls. And that only gets more urgent as more and more private funding goes into that market. And as you can see, you know, with COVID and everything, lots of shifts, right, in consumer behavior that are super important to track, as well as B2B behavior. But I would say it's in many ways similar to where we started. We've had this pretty strong belief that, you know, innovation is there's no silver bullet to innovation, right? It's not like, oh, I'm into corporate venture capital and now I'm innovating. That doesn't work that way. In corporate venture capital is one method to drive innovation, but there are many other methods. And we did a study last year with 1,200 innovation executives, and we found that the leading companies we tried to correlate market cap growth and the levers of innovation they were leveraging, and we found those that had significantly higher market cap growth were leveraging multiple functions of innovation, usually 4 to 5 functions. And so we think you got to start somewhere, and it depends on, you know, appetite, mandate, budget, a lot of things, but you got to start somewhere. But you also have to realize that this is a test and trial type game, and it's a longer journey.
Yeah. And before we switch to the Baincubator, last question on more of who's your counterpart within the corporate side? Who's your best champion when you engage for medium to long term and activities with the corporate?
I would say we've got sort of 3 sets of champions. When it comes to, we do a lot of what we call future back strategy work, which leads to innovation, right? So how do we understand what's going to happen in the next 10 years? And then how do we, and what capabilities do we have today? And what capabilities do we need for the future, right? No one can predict the future perfectly, but you can look for signals and trends, right? And a lot of those trends can come from the world of disruption. So we do a lot of work with executive teams on that. It's like, let's actually figure out what your strategy should be. And we find it super important that strategy is tied to, you know, or innovation mandates and innovation strategy are tied to overall strategy of the firm. With that, so I would say in the beginning, a lot of times CEOs and executive teams, head of strategy are very important to us. I would say the next level is, of course, chief innovation officers, heads of venture funds, corporate venture funds, anyone across innovation are our friends and buddies. We strive to empower their initiatives, right? We want the innovation leaders at these firms to have the bigger budgets, the innovation leaders to run a successful program. That's what we care about the most. But a lot of times we need to work at both levels to make sure that they do get the budgets and the appropriate resources to make a difference and the right alignment. And then I'll say a third one that's becoming more and more important is, BU leaders, right? At the end of the day, BU leaders need to run a business, but they recognize that if they want to drive efficiency and better capabilities, there are startups and technologies, as Marco was referring to, the SaaSification of everything. There's a lot of amazing stuff out there. Well, how do we make sure that stuff comes into the organization in a much more accelerated path?
It makes perfect sense. And in fact, again, I mean, you guys are the master of supporting the internal organization of corporates. If there is one thing that we've seen changing in the last few years is really how the reporting structure when it comes to innovation related topics has been evolving in areas where there is more freedom, more the measurement of outcomes is separate from for example the R&D or the typical business, because otherwise you'll get stuck. So that flow we've seen 100% change in the last few years, whether that's called chief innovation officers that report to top management, or strategy sometimes, or digital if it's in the financial area. But it's definitely one thing that we see evolving. All right, let's switch gear here and let's talk more about the intrapreneurship. Again, another big trend that is happening, and I love the name Incubator. Obviously, well done. This is less visible to the external world, obviously, because this is an internal process. But Marco, help us understand what was the driver to start the Bain Incubator, and then more of the the medium term objectives.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, I mean, basically in this SaaSification, we are not playing a role, right? So we have decided to have a role here, go boldly, into this space, and we're trying to build stuff. I mean, it's a corporate incubator. It's something very pragmatical. What we do, we identify areas where we believe there's going to be a disruption pretty soon. We are lucky because we have Rishi as consultant, that can help us in avoid the pitfall of building incubator in the wrong way. But joking apart, it's a very complicated exercise because at the very beginning, an incubator basically doesn't exist. In a corporate, there are no processes. You don't exist. You have to build everything from scratch because you can pretend to be different. You can pretend to be, the incubator, but you're still, a corporate member, right? So in Bain, we have these three strategic pillars like out team, out innovate, outgrow. I think the first thing you have to do very well, you need to out team with the whole organization. Because if you don't get the support of the whole organization, your incubator is going to die. It's immediately. I mean, it's not. I think most of them die within like 12 months because they do not out team. And you gotta leverage the overall organization where people, don't volunteer their time to help you for nothing. Lawyers, like HR, finance, Rishi. You gotta leverage the overall organization, and that's not obvious, right? So that's the first thing. I mean, the way we think about this, it is a model that it does exist. So no rocket science. It's a high conviction incubator. So 4 to 6 bets per year. We have a look at the market, what's going on. We try to identify areas, as I said, where we see the disruption. So Laure would talk, about, a real life example, but basically where we see, okay, here in 4 to 5 years, there's going to be a disruption. We need to anticipate that, and what we try to do, we build things, lean startup approach, very frugal, very to the point, lean teams, and get things done. With global team from India, Paris, Zurich, San Francisco, Palo Alto, just like, I mean, this, uh, this COVID and work from home for us literally, wasn't a big deal because for us didn't change that much. We are completely distributed, but that's the key thing. I mean, how we do that, we collect ideas within the firm. At the end of the day, we say we try to turn consulting into software, right? So this is the main thing: turn a piece of consulting into software. So if you want to turn a piece of consulting into software, you got to have consulting skills on the team. So Laure, as an example, show great talent into digital transformation. That's the kind of resource you want to have when you want to disrupt something in digital transformation, right? And then we build teams around talents like Laure, like tech teams. We have there is a co-lead. I mean, the incubator itself. Savi Baveja is a senior partner, and he's the founder of the Baincubator. And there is co-leading with me. There is Ravi Zrivatsav, is completely different background, not consulting background, but like tech background, entrepreneurial background. So we are really good, the three of us, as complementary skill, and we try to help talents like Laure in building things, right? So I think what is important is when you have high conviction, model, you need to pay a lot of attention to how you kill. There are a lot of books, just plenty of books around kill fast, kill super fast. But the problem is, if you really believe that in that area there is something, and you're not going to make it with, the startup or the venture itself, so the incubator model, you need to develop an IP. So I think you should kill, but not that fast. I mean, there are situations where it's good to kill very fast. There are other situations like our situation where basically I think it is worth to wait till you have an IP, and then you hand over the IP to the business unit. So fast, but not that much. Please go ahead. Sorry.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
was again try to get a little bit more insights on the origination process before you kill. So, how is the origination process?
Oh,
I guess
yes.
that you gather information from a number of points, including Rishi's team. I assume, because that's where also you see a lot of pain point from corporates as well as a reference.
Yes. So we have, first of all, we have a portal that is always on. So every Bainee can apply anytime, just like an idea, right? It's just like people apply. We start like a process of dialogue. This is how I think the idea. Okay, this is like, and this is actually this is very fascinating, right? Because you can really see like 23, 24-year-old guys with great ideas, right? So great drive. It's really fascinating. So that's one stream. Another stream, we organize internal competition. So virtual competition of ideas generation, sort of hackathon. Obviously there is no coding. It's more around, what's the business idea? How do you see this? Like just back of the envelope calculation, little bit of the market size, this kind of stuff that you can come up with in 24 hours. And then of course there is the senior management, and the senior management team, they always, come up with good ideas. And another important process, we are fairly plugged into the business unit innovation processes on the core business. So what we do, we just, let's say they have like 15 initiatives. I'm just making this up, on whatever business unit. So we have a dialogue and we say, okay, just like out of those 15 initiatives, is it worth that we develop one of those initiatives with, a startup approach with the ultimate objective to spin it out? Because something that I haven't mentioned so far is that, one of the core thing of the model is the spin-off. So just we build ventures, and we truly believe that those ventures needs to be on the market, right? So not 100% from Bain, but Laure is going to be the founder. She's going to lead their ventures. She's going to raise money from VCs, and otherwise, it's not going to work.
So let's go on the how. So you said there are a number of sources, and now we got a better understanding. Give us some time frame from the constant filtering of ideas versus what's next, and then how many of them make it through really the incubation phase.
You should think about a cycle like a year and a half, right? So 6 months, it's what it takes to like the pre-incubation, so selection, and then 1 year to basically go from like the idea that we select. We have criteria, obviously. It's just like at the end of the pre-incubation, there is like a stage gate saying you gotta go through this 4 or 5 criterias. Like, so the problem should be super clear, the solution should be clearly 10x, very, it could be a little bit cliche, or like a book, like I said before. But if you take it very seriously and you really ask yourself those 8-10 questions every day, it is really not obvious, right? And we realize that not having focus on the problem statement, it's still one of the biggest issues, because and that's one thing. Then after once you are in the incubator, and basically you have the standard stage gates, like the concept, the prototype, the MVP, and then you get into the last stage where you want to spin out. And we have standard metrics that we look at, basically the traction you generate, like how many clients you have interacted with during the MVP phase, like.
And Marco, you say standard, but I assume, again, being Bain, you probably have developed your own very sophisticated model there, some secret sauce on even how to measure how those elements should be consequent.
I would say the secret sauce, it's not that much into the metrics, because the metrics are, I would say, of course, are specific of our business, right? So you are turned consulting into software, so you gotta apply metrics that are extremely sophisticated, because we are a niche business. So I mean, it's very bespoke by nature. But I think secret sauce is related a lot on the on the how, right? I think one very important thing is that if you want an incubator to be successful, you need to have the CEO involved very much. So I think we have a great governance. We have a great innovation committee. Like, the CEO sits in the innovation committee, and this allows to solve a lot of trade-offs, right? Especially at the beginning, when, as I said, you do not exist. You think you exist in the organization, but you don't, because you send out an email and you don't exist. And people on the other side of the world say, okay, what is this? And it takes time. So the CEO role is really, 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 really important. So this is one thing. The other thing is to treat Bain, as the challenge is the trade-off between, okay, out team, as I said before, but also treat Bain very fairly as a client on one hand, but also as an investor, right? Because simultaneously, every day, Bain, for us of the incubator, is a client, because we have Bain partners that want to use this product. As an investor, potentially, because need to fund the venture in the seed stage, right? And so those multiple roles are not easy, and that's I think it is really, really, really very crucial. I think if I have to really come up with one key ingredient, only one, and it's the last one that I'm going to mention, is the equity currency. So if you don't have equity currency, basically it is very hard to make things don't happen. If they happen, they don't happen in the right way. Think about talent sourcing internally. If you don't have equity currency, how can you source talent, right? Yeah. If you don't have, a clear equity model, cap table evolution, like,
yeah, which is the currency of Silicon Valley at the end of the day, and it's been for 20 years or more. So that's definitely something that resonates, at least in the cradle of innovation. And I want to talk about that staffing process with Laure in a second. Before we move to entrepreneur in residence, Marco. So what's the ultimate goal of the incubator? Is to create products that then Bain can use internally, or is to have financial returns in the ventures that you'll be able to span out?
I think we just want to create value, and value means that if we build a venture and this venture is going to spin out, this venture needs to grow. VC standards target $100 million annual recurring revenues in, let's say, 5 years. And at the beginning being controlled by Bain, for obvious reasons, could be like something very strategically. So one example, we are working now on a very interesting push of a button due diligence product, right, in private equity. So we lead. I would say I was using hands down, probably too much, but we lead the private equity space as top management consulting firm. So when you launch a product like that, you got to treat that, with a lot of attention. And so that's, that's one thing. And basically that's it, market standards, nothing more, market
Yeah,
standard.
I mean, Mark, I can add, we want to build businesses, right? Like we want to
Yeah.
build businesses that add value, and we're not doing it just to serve, cases better. We have those efforts as well, of course, but we want to build businesses that could stand alone by themselves, but we've helped bring them to life because of the advantages that we have at Bain. I think, Marco, you were referring to PEG, our private equity. We are the leaders in private equity diligence. We do most of the deals out there. So, yeah, I think we're looking at spaces that Bain can win in, and leveraging that to what Marco and team you guys have been launching.
Yeah,
And now,
and Marco, so
yes.
to build on what Rishi is saying, so one of the key criteria we have is the why Bain, right? So when we have people asking, we want to be incubated here. So one of the things we say, okay, just but can you incubate this, idea in Y Combinator or Techstars or 500 startups? Because if you can do that, so this is not the right place, for you. There should be a strong,
Reason
rationale.
for being in not elsewhere. And this
Yeah.
is a great example and a great bridge to Aura.ceo. And so, Laure, let's talk about your role first and what you do internally, and then we try to expand on really the business of Aura as an example.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the founder of Aura. We're one of the venture incubated by Bain, and my role is essentially to create a business. So definitely aligned with what Rishi said. We want to, at the end of the day, create standalone businesses. And the idea of Aura is we're a talent screening platform. So what that means is we take external data and try to give you the perspective on any company out there. So we've indexed over 12 million companies. And the questions that we're answering for our clients are kind of twofold. The first one and the main one is, do I have the right talent, the right capabilities to achieve my ambition? And that is critical when you think about digital transformations, for instance. So that's where we come in and get a perspective on, where do you stand? What does best in class look like? How do you bridge the gap, right? How do you get there? So that's kind of the main ambition. And the second type of questions that clients ask are, well, if I want an acquisition or a partnership with a startup, with a company, what is the best fit? How to find those companies that will fit with my business. And because we're such a leader in the private equity market, this is obviously a question that we hear often. And so we're also using that data for some kind of diligence processes.
Yeah, so very, very crucial, again, to reinforce what Marco was saying, why within Bain. So again, to go in practical terms, help us go through the phase that made Aura a reality, from the idea process to the staffing to the size that you're at today, so they can actually see a real life example. And also, how do you came into the picture? Were you already working at Bain, or were you hired just for this position?
Yeah, no, I'm from a consulting background, so I've been at Bain for 7 years. I was pulled in because I'm kind of the transformation expert. This is kind of most of my work at Bain has been focused on transformation with a spin towards talent, behavioral change. So I was kind of the, expert in the field that we were trying to disrupt. And what happened is we were on this mission to create a SaaS model out of, helping leaders do those transformations. And so that was the mission that was given to us. We started as a very small team. trying out the idea, testing it with our clients, testing it with transformation experts at Bain as well. And then the second phase was, okay, how do we move from just having an idea to actually building something, right? Creating something. And so we started with different types of pilots. We have the great assets to be able to access leaders through our Bain teams. So we were able to test this very quickly with them. And once we had validated the traction and the energy around the product, we started building the tech team to bring it to life. And so the phase that we're in now is we're kind of scaling up, polishing what we have, and trying to move forward in terms of what other data sources can we incorporate? What else do people want to know when they start those transformations related to people?
So how? Yes, you probably were saying that. How long ago was that? Since the very inception of the idea to today? How many people are working now within Aura, and what do you think is next?
Yeah, it's been so far. It's been a year-long journey. At this stage, we're a team of 8 people. What's next is scaling. So moving from serving, a handful of clients, and also all of our clients internally at Bain to more than that. So there are 2 kind of pieces there. One is the sales part, and the other one is a technical part. So how do we scale our database? So that's what's ahead of us. And the idea is, how do we create the right conditions for our spin-off so that we can become our own independent business?
And you actually asked the right question. How do you create the right conditions? What is the right condition? Is that to become independent? Is that a revenue level? Is that the level of engagement within the clients of Bain, or what other measures would make you decide?
Yeah, I think it comes from creating recurring revenue. That's what's going to matter for us, because the switch and the mindset switch is, consultants will come for a project. It's usually time bound, and here we're selling something different, right? It's in the long term, to be used by our clients on an ongoing basis. So we need to make that switch from one-off support to more of the SaaS model of recurring revenue. So I think that's where the switch is going to happen.
Excellent. It's 45 minutes. I think we probably have time for just one major topic. That is there, through the times that we're living, this is a typical question we've been asking in the last 6 months, but through the times we're living, have you guys seen in your different 3 different angles that are connected, obviously, but as your focus area, current portfolio, investment thesis, what has changed in the last 6 months? Who wants to take
Rishi,
it?
I can start. Obviously, I would lie if I would say, okay, no, nothing changed. It's like with the COVID, right? I think there is a lot more attention to topics that were already there. Think about, the phygital customer corridor, like physical and digital. And, was a big topic out there. Now in retail, all of a sudden it's it becomes a big deal, right? Think about grocery. Just like I was used to buying grocery, like, next door 100% of my wallet, like all of a sudden 100% of your wallet shifts online. Maybe you're not even the decision maker anymore. And so it's and then what's the end state? One is going to be what's the end state. And if you listen, like World Health Organization, right? October, November, another wave of pandemic. No one is is it going to happen? If that's going to happen, it's going to have like additional implication on things like that. So long story short, yes, it has an impact.
So Marco, if I can paraphrase that, is also dictating the different priority that you guys are evaluating within the incubator. What can be, you know, interesting tools or products that can be used in a new normal.
Yeah, look, yes, because think about retail again. I mean, if you look at the numbers, this acceleration, it's a 5-year acceleration in terms of e-commerce penetration versus traditional retail, right? Like luxury worst year ever in the history, you know. So, I mean, basically the disruption is closer, right? So for us, we need to anticipate the disruption. Basically, you know, in the retail example that I was mentioning, it's there. It's like just like it's closer. so
new business opportunity for sure. Rishi, is there anything that has drastically changed your ways of looking at support of your clients?
Well, besides the obvious, we are all virtual. What we've been finding is every industry is at a different sort of state, right? Some need drastic change and need technologies to support that drastic change, and those are super exciting to us. We actually just ran we run a retainer program with one of our clients, and we run many clients, but one of these particular, we identified a microbial applicant that helps with removing bacteria from surfaces, which is quite exciting, right? I wish I could have invested in that company, because there's stuff out there, right? And so we get excited by, you know, these companies out there solving real problems, and we can bring more exposure to them, to clients that also have that need. And so I would say, look, we're seeing on the startup side, there are certain technologies and startup companies that are accelerating like drastically as I talk to venture funds, right? Like they know in their portfolio that there are some companies that are crushing it. And it's because they have solutions and technologies that, you know, before it was like, we'll wait a couple of years to try, or it's like, no, I need it now. We need your platform today, right? Like even technologies like the one we're on, right? Like StreamYard or other platforms that are, you know, evolving the experience you might have had on Zoom for different purposes like this. So we're just excited by that piece. We sort of stick to this message, which is, even during this time, innovation should be still super important, right? Now, one thing you can do as an innovation team, depending on what functions you have, is how can you support the core, right? This is a time period where if you do have access or you have the ability to look outside your four walls, well, how can you help your business units with the innovation that's happening outside? How can you be the instigator of change and mindset, right? Because the innovation team's already agile, they're already thinking differently. Well, guess what? The broader business unit or business just woke up to becoming agile and thinking differently because they have to. And so the innovation teams can truly support that change. And so my push is, don't get rid of the innovation team during a time like this. It's how do you leverage the value of that team? And for the innovation leaders to think about how can you add value as well.
And
Very well said.
Marco, to build on what Rishi is saying and to link to my point on the CEO, considering the uncertainty, is particularly important that the CEO sits at the table, because otherwise, with all that uncertainty, basically it's so easy to derail, right? And say, no, we can't do it. No, innovation, it's not important. So let's cut a little bit the budget, you know? So those are the kind of thinking everywhere. It's normal. So the CEO needs to be there and you know, make the tough calls.
Yeah, and there's plenty of research actually from previous economical downturns where is a time where investing in innovation is the real added value for companies that eventually accelerated from these gaps. So we're going to share some of those topics and trend. There is one in particular that is very, very clear to everybody, that capital is still out there in plenty. One of the data that we'll share with our friends at Crunchbase is the acceleration of a mega funds that have been created in the last 6 months. That's on September 29th at the opening of our Scale Up Summit. And with that, I want to thank you all. You guys have been perfect, great, and everything worked fine from different locations around the world. Appreciate it, and hopefully we're going to see you in real time and real people and bones.
Well, we actually might all be avatars, Marco.
Maybe that's the other option.
Just train very well.
Either way, we'll be ready. Bye, guys. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
All right.
Ciao,
thank you.
ciao, Marco.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank